Welcome to another episode of the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast, where we empower coaches, consultants to use podcasting as a way to grow their business. Now, later on, I'm going to be giving you my tool of the week if you're a podcaster to help your life a lot easier. But before that, my special guest today is Rob Matkin. We're going to be talking about how to scale with clarity, courage, and focus. We're going to be talking about from struggle to scale. Maybe that's part of Rob's story. We're going to be talking about real growth, focus, freedom. So my guest, Rob Matkin, he's a serial entrepreneur, business strategist, and the founder of more than 16 companies with multiple successful exits under his belt. His story, as he's going to share with you, is really proof that adversity doesn't have to define you. You can use it as the driving force. Rob was, I'm sure he's going to share this, but he was unable to read due to dyslexia. For some people, that would stop them in their tracks. But Rob turned that challenge into his absolute superpower. And today, he helps founders cut through the noise, get laser focused, and scale their business from 0 to 7 figures and beyond. So if you're stuck, scattered, or even if you're starting to scale, Rob's going to bring a powerful mix of mindset, leadership, and strategy to the table. So you are going to leave this session fired up, clear on your next steps, and ready to take bold action. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So let's start with a little bit of your backstory. And what was the inspiration then for you to help business owners scale their business?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was inspired. I was called, literally. So I was running one of my startups. I was actually in Tel Aviv. And one of my friends was like, I want some advice. And I started just helping her out. And I was actually exchanging it for private Hebrew lessons because dyslexia in different languages don't work too well. So she bludgeoned me into helping her out. Turns out, I think her company now, they're one of the largest language schools in the world. She couldn't get out of her own way, and she couldn't figure out how to build and scale her company. She was constantly stuck in this cycle of, well, having enough money to afford the scaling and then having the right people around her to really drive the scaling. And she found the right person and everything worked out. So it's definitely called to it. And I realized I had a love for it. Like what fulfills me is really making a difference for other people and seeing their dreams come true. So there's happiness, there's fulfillment, and fulfillment for me is really that. So with coaching and consulting, I do it because I love it and it really fills me up more so than anything. There's plenty of other things I could be doing and plenty of other companies I could be running. Yeah, so I find it fun.
Love that. And look, so many, I'm talking about newer entrepreneurs, newer businesses. It's really difficult because many do not start from that place of thinking, I'm going to go and get funding so that I can scale my business. They walk into it and they go, I'm going to give this a go. I can do this. I'll start by myself. And then they realize they have to wear all these different hats. They might be good at what they do. They might be amazing at what they do, really passionate, overqualified. They can do their stuff.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, they've got to be a marketing expert, an advertising expert, HR, admin, all this stuff. How do you take a business that's in that space? You must have some kind of process. And I'm sure listeners are like, share with me. How do you take these people that are struggling and how do you get them to scale?
Yeah, so a lot of times, first of all, it takes more time than people want it to, right? Just because there's so much to accomplish, right? But at the end of the day, it's actually really simple, right? You could be the smartest person out there. So I call it this. A lot of founders, and what you just described, I would call it Superman syndrome or Superwoman syndrome. But it's really Superman because women don't have this problem, right? And because the attitude in my 20s was I could do everything in this company better than any one of you. And guess what? I was right. But here's the thing. I need to do 60 things on any given day, and I could do 1 or 2 of them better than anybody else. So really quick, I learned to have a co-founder. I will never start a company alone ever again. I always have co-founders. Co-founders doesn't mean, by the way, 50-50 ownership. It could mean 95-5, depending on the application, the time, and everything else, and roles and responsibilities. But I'll never do it alone. A few reasons. One, there's just too much to accomplish on your own. At some point, you'll slow down and your co-founder will speed up. And there's two people driving this thing. Three, if you're going to raise money, any seasoned investor, I'm starting to see this slip a little bit with AI agents, but for the 99% of companies, investors really require you to have a co-founder. Why? Because at least one person besides you believes in you. You convince somebody else to invest in you, and they're not the first. The most successful entrepreneurs, by the way, this is a sidetrack, love them, hate them, but the Elon Musk, the Steve Jobs, the Adam Newmans out there, and I know a few of them personally, and I've had the opportunity to meet them, they have what's called a reality distortion field. They truly distort what reality is, and they convince you that their form of reality is true. And that's how they get invested. How do I, going back to your original question, how do you go from, or how do I take somebody from pretty green and rough around the edges all the way through to raising seven figures and beyond? It's actually really simple. It's step by step. You have a really comprehensive kickoff call with all my clients, and it's, let's go through, where are your weaknesses, where are the holes in all the different areas of business. Let's look at all the different 7 areas of business. Let's see where holes are. Now, one step, let's create a ladder. And the safest, quickest way to climb a ladder is one rung at a time, not skipping steps, building out this proper foundation, showcasing having success, showcasing success, and then building the story around why you're going to be successful in the future. And so that's the bottom line, simple thing is teams and one step at a time and doing the right things. Good hygiene will lead to that success, right? That doesn't mean you have to move slow or fast. It's moving at the right pace for you based on where you're at.
Yeah, because that's the trouble, isn't it? See, some people, and I might be talking about myself here as well, myself included, sometimes you get to a certain level and it's to go to that next step can be a little bit scary, right? Because then you've got to deal with, then you're worried about fulfillment, right? Because have I got enough people on my team to deal with fulfillment of this thing, right? And what do you think stops people from going to that next level of either attracting investors, and for some people, even that can be a scary thing for some business owners, but also to go, you need to scale.
Yeah.
There's a fear, isn't there? There's a fear involved because you've got a balance that I haven't got a big enough team and I've got to pay them to then go to that next level. How do you deal with that?
Well, I would say now you're projecting your own challenges right now.
I've been here.
I'll answer that in 2 parts. I'll answer a few different questions. The first one being, what does it take to really be investable? And the biggest thing is team and being coachable. I did a 90-minute webinar on this the other day, but one of the biggest things, so I could go in really deep on this, but really, how do I synopsize it? What do investors really have to have? You need to be a good fiduciary of their money. You need to make sure you could showcase that you're going to show 100x return on their money, right? You need to showcase a track record of being able to execute. And oh, by the way, you better be coachable. What do I mean by coachable? You better be able to take people's opinions and not yeah them, but actually say, you know what, I'll run a test around it, whether you agree with them or not, because everybody has this opinion of investors that they're going to come in and destroy your company. They might. They could. The wrong ones can and have. But they're there to see their money succeed. You're on the same team. They want a 100x return. Now, sometimes with VCs, that might be toxic because they'd rather you take a 1 in 100 bet to get to 1,000x growth. And what's really best for you and the company is to take the sure bet and see 3x growth. Now, irregardless of those inflection points, they're there to support you and see you succeed. So you better listen to their opinions. Now, I'm going to answer your question last, but I'll say this. When I look at business these days for myself and the mistakes that I've made, not only recently, but in the past, I look for what can I control and what can I not control. And some of my superpowers, I'll say my superpowers are this. people, and this is what people describe me as, a super connector. I can connect the dots between patterns in businesses, but more importantly, people. I love putting people together, and I connect the dots on that. And that's some of the other things that I do in my free time. I've gotten 5 people married. If their name is John, chances are 4 out of 5, they're named John. Why? I don't know. But anyway, that's a segue. The other thing is I'm really great at executing, right? So execution, I know, right? Now, what you were talking about a minute ago is you have a small, medium-sized business. You have a traditional business, right? Where the more money you make, the more people you need, right? This is why software eats the world, is because it's scalable. You develop out the software and it's just more profits, right? And up and to the right. Now, I know, and I think most entrepreneurs, execution, in reality, it's within our control. We need to find people, okay, finding good people, building culture, those are all challenges. But guess what? There's ways of solving that. You have enough resources, you'll figure it out. You'll break some eggs, but you'll figure it out. It's within your control. A lot of times, new business, it's a lot harder. It's marketing. Marketing drives me bonkers. I'm more of a sales guy, but marketing drives me bonkers, right? Because it's 2-part alchemy and 1 part execution, or maybe 10 parts alchemy, 1 part pseudoscience, and 3 parts luck, and 1 part execution. I
like that.
And it's, you look at it, you're like, really? You're one of the most successful people in marketing? Really? Russell? All right. Really? But you look at the most successful marketers in the world, you go, shit, all right, you're killing it. But so I look for what's in your control and what's not. So your problem was the stuff that was in your control. That's great for me as a coach, as a consultant, because it's really interesting. It's really easy. It's what's stopping you, what's intimidating you, what's really in your way. It's probably something fear-based. It's probably something there. Okay, we could tweak that. And you know what the best part about that it's in your control is? Do you know? I'm asking you. What would be the best part about it?
Well, you're going to deal with it. You're going to get over it.
We could literally, in a minute, get rid of it, and we could change it that second, right? If it's not, if it's some marketing program or how to get more leads, it's like, we have to test, we have to develop, we have to iterate, we have to get feedback, and there's a whole loop. Now, we can do those loops quickly, maybe a week, maybe 2, but chances are it takes a little bit of time. We need to develop a new feature, whatever that might be. But when it's in your control, now we can change it, we can iterate, we can move fast. So when it's execution challenges, that's when Zuckerberg's quote of move fast and break things really apply, right? Just move fast, you'll figure it out, you'll pick up pieces, you'll have a few pissed off clients, okay, you'll fix that. You have a client that's upset. I never want to upset my clients. It's all about Herb Kelleher at Southwest putting the clients first above everything and putting employees first above all else. But I absolutely believe in that. But if you're moving fast to put clients first and to come out with features and to grow, customer success, customer service, we could always fix something, right? Everybody's still alive. By the way, if it's cybersecurity or we're playing with people's lives or there's
a bit different.
With autonomous vehicles and like what Elon's doing of going really fast and braking, maybe not the best way of doing, but however, for as a service, stuff like that.
But in business, and do you find that a lot of the things that are holding people back can be internal, like internal limiting beliefs before you get to actually strategy and processes, or do you find something different?
It's always bespoke. Right. There's always going to be a combination of that. It's always going to be by the person, right? It's always going to be for even that you had a limiting belief on growth and scale, but there was actually real fears of you have not figured out how to execute on hiring and growth and training, and you really don't have systems in place to really do that. And you're really intimidated that, holy cow, I'm already working 60 hours a week and overwhelmed and everything in my personal life, and now I need to work 90 hours a week and I'm going to break and I don't want to do that. And this really isn't work. And then I'm putting all the money on the line to really double and grow, but am I really making more money and really? So there's unpacking all that, right? So there's always a lot behind it and really figuring out, well, maybe not. Maybe for a consulting practice, it doesn't pay to double or triple. For a software company, it absolutely does, right? Maybe it doesn't pay for you to actually have investors because maybe you just want to turn this into a cash cow, right? There have been years that I focus on cash cow businesses. I don't want investors. I don't want to necessarily build out $1 million product. I want things that make me cash from the very moment, and I make me a lot of cash and don't take me a lot of time or cause me a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So it all depends where you're at, what you're prioritizing, and what's best for you in that moment. Now, if you have employees and stakeholders, not necessarily that holds true, but in the beginning, it sure does. But it goes into
So,
this, right? Where are you going? What is your destination? What do you want to achieve?
so it's going back to your why. It's going back to your why. So for things like you say, software, something that you can just scale, it's done. The fulfillment is already done for you. Then that's your ideal place. So you've built 16 companies. Is it more than that? And you've already done lots of exit strategies. So am I hearing from you that really you like to work with people who do have at least an exit strategy? Because do you feel that many business owners just don't? They're just looking at growing their business. They don't have that exit strategy in place.
I think it's a newfound thing that only startups we have exit strategy. And I grew up in my family business. My dad ran it for 40, 50 years. We were in business for over 80 years. And he didn't have an exit strategy, and that was fine, right? It was a cash cow, great business, stressful as hell. I mean, I don't know how much he loved it, but he was a great provider with it. But is an exit strategy mandatory? No, it's not. It's why, whether you call it your why, which is important, but also where are you going? What's your destination? What's your goal? If your goal could simply be, I want to pay my bills and I want to earn, or I want this tangible asset and I want to make, I want my salary to be $50,000 every month. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Or it's, I want a big exit. There's also nothing wrong with that. But depending what you want, what your goals are, if you want to go public, if you want to sell to Amazon or Walmart, or if you want to do this or that, or you have this to make a difference in the world with, it all is going to govern how you're going to build your company, how you're going to scale your company, what type of investment you're going to have, what type of investors you're going to have, what type of team you're going to have. Yeah. So I look at things like this from somebody from the outside looking in. Is somebody passionate and wants to succeed, and they're in business and they have money to actually invest in their business. And after that, business is business. Why? Because you're working with people and you're selling to people. Over the fourth industrial revolution in the next 10 years, that might change, which is, wow, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah.
Fantastic. So if there's any listeners out there that are in that position and they are looking to scale, what should the listeners do next? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll put a link in the chat. Book a call with me. I'm happy to talk to you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and see where I could just make a difference for you. As I said, my passion is making a difference for others. And let me see where I can make a difference for you. And if you like what I have to say, if you love it or hate what I have to say, but it made an impact, maybe then we could talk more.
Fantastic. And where do the listeners find you? Where can they find you?
Hey, it's my name at gmail.com, robmatzkin.com, Rob Matkin on LinkedIn, Rob Matkin at Gmail. So
awesome. Thank you for taking your time out today to speak with us here. And to the listeners, I'm going to be back after the ads with my top tool of the week to help you with your podcasting. Bye for now. Hi there, I'm back. So before we wrap up today's episode, I want to share something I call my tool of the week, something that I personally use, recommend, or just think is too good not to talk about if you're a podcaster who wants to make your life easier. Today's tool is a total game changer, especially if editing feels overwhelming or techie. And that tool is called Descript. If you haven't heard of it, Descript is basically like Google Docs for your podcast audio. So let me explain. What makes Descript so powerful is that you just need to upload your audio or video, whether that's a solo episode or an interview, and Descript, for one, automatically transcribes it for you. So at a later date, you can turn that transcription into show notes, social media posts, blog posts, etc. But here's where the magic happens. You can edit your audio simply by editing the text. That means if you made a mistake, you just highlight the words and delete them out of the sentence. If you said or 50 times, Descript finds them, all of them, and removes them in one simple click. If your guest went on a long tangent, snip it out by deleting the whole paragraph. So there's no need to mess with audio waveforms or any complicated software. It's as easy as editing a Word document or writing an email. Now, there are loads of really cool features. So let me highlight just a few of them. I love this tool. There's overdub. So this is really wild. Let's say you forget to say your guest's name properly, or you mucked up your call to action at the end. With Descript's overdub feature, you can type the correction and then it uses AI to recreate your voice so it sounds like you said it correctly the first time. This is a total lifesaver when you don't want to have to re-record an entire section. There's also screen recording and video editing. So you can use it for video podcasts or to repurpose content for YouTube or Reels. Descript lets you add captions, jump cuts, and screen recordings too, all in one tool. So there's no need to learn separate video editing software. And publishing and sharing it, once you're done, you can simply export your episodes straight to your podcast host or download the text, as I said, for your show notes, blog posts, captions. So who is this for? Honestly, I think Descript is absolutely perfect for new podcasters who just want simple drag and drop editing without hiring an editor. Coaches and content creators who want to repurpose episodes into other content easily, and busy people who want to save hours in post-production without sacrificing quality. So if you're someone who puts off editing because it feels like a tech nightmare, or you've ever said, I love recording, but I hate editing, you need Descript in your life. The real life use, how I use it for my whole workflow. After I record an episode, either solo or with a guest, I drop the file into Descript. Within minutes, I've got the full transcript and I can clean up the audio. I can pull out quotes to use on social media, create a quick blog post simply from the transcript. I can cut short video clips or reels. I can remove any filler words, ums and ers. I can even correct eye contact. And just like that, I've got an episode plus a week's worth of content, all from one tool. It's honestly one of the reasons I've been able to stay consistent and not burn out. So if editing is something that's holding you back, or if you just want to save yourself some serious time, I highly recommend checking out Descript. There's a free version to try out, and the paid plans are super affordable for what you get. There are so many super things in it, so give it a go. I will drop a link in the show notes so you can give it a test drive. And if you want me to walk you through my exact workflow inside Descript, step by step, let me know. I have a whole course that takes you through setting up your podcast production and podcast promotion. And this includes behind the scenes video for you. I'll put the link down here. And that's it for today's tool of the week. And I'll be back next week with another guest and another tip to help you podcast smarter, not harder.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're